title is called No One to Go With. And it's a book which I've been thinking about writing for a little while. I say a little while because it was a year ago I came up with the idea to do a book on solo traveling, feeling more confident doing solo traveling. But it's not a book just about going on solo travel adventures. It's about exploring new things. So sometimes you might be put off going to an event, an exhibit, going to a class, or trying a totally new experience. And it could be the case that you have friends who can't commit to it, you do not have a plus one, or maybe you are the person who, out of your circle, of your contacts, who are interested in doing that thing. So, for example, it might be learning to fly. I know that's a bit expensive, so that wasn't the best example to use, but I use that as an example. So, it's a book which encourages you to take different steps. So, what I mean by steps is to do these tiny experiments. And what I recommend to people, especially if you're interested and you haven't really done a lot of solo traveling, is I recommend going somewhere a bit closer to home, local. And in the UK, where I'm from, for example, you could also go to places of interest. So, what happens is if you're driving typically on motorways, I see this, but you can see this in towns in the UK, you would see like a brown sign which would be saying, so say for example, we're in Liverpool, and Liverpool does come up in this book because I share my story about how, although I travelled to different parts of the UK, I felt apprehensive when I was offered this opportunity to relocate for 3 months. So, for example, let's take this situation. So, I'm driving into Liverpool, and then I see a brown sign which says, go to the Beatles Museum, for example. So I think, oh, this could be interesting. I like music. And then you go there. And I did actually visit, it's called The Story in Liverpool near the docks. And I had such a good time up in Liverpool. I did feel sad when my project finished because I got used to living up there. It had like a nice 70s vibe. And if you follow me in terms of my interest, you'll know that I'm a big fan of 70s fashion. So 65% or maybe 70% of my clothing is vintage. Yes, I do get some modern pieces like the one I'm wearing, which is probably Indian inspired. I bought this on my travels, by the way. And what's cool about this design, it's quite versatile. So I could even wear it as a skirt, but enough about fashion. But I wanted this book to help people not be put off in terms of living life because of their circumstances, because it's not just for single people. So sometimes it might be instances where you have to work away from home. So you leave your partner, your husband, for example, or like what I've done in my former consulting life, where I used to travel to different countries. And talking about traveling to different countries, I made a really good friend on one of my trips to deliver training, and she was on a plane. We were in the same row, and I looked up and I thought, wow, she's got a really nice scarf. She's really chic. She likes fashion like me too. And then we started talking. And in the book, I share how she had a different impression of me, firstly, because she thought that I wasn't like a person who was interested in talking, but find out in the book. So I don't want to give away too much teasers because otherwise it ruins it for you. And the book is also, it also encourages you to look up. So I think there was this documentary, you could comment if you like. I think it was called Look Up on Netflix, which was some years back. I can't remember if it's before COVID, because it feels like COVID, we lost 2 years with COVID, with a lockdown. But I remember there was a premise in terms of when you look up, you never know whose eyes you're going to meet. And even in one of my recent videos, so if you follow me on TikTok, so by the way, it's I am Sophia Husbands. If you want to follow me on TikTok, by the way, it should also be shown up on my profile. I did a video where it did end saying, oh, if you look up, you never know, you might meet your love of your life. And that is so true because we're living in this age where we have like lots of different distractions, mobile phones and alerts. So that's why I make a point sometimes when I'm going out or doing my walks to not have my earphones in, although I might have it in sometimes. So I'm not going to pretend that I don't. So with this book, it's encouraging you to go out there, explore new things, don't be afraid, take it bit by bit. So it's like a phrase I was taught years ago. It's in Urdu called Tora Tora, which means bit by bit. And this is how you approach things. So it's not just to do with, let's say, for example, you want to go traveling, it could be another go you have. So you find that things are there is relationships between different things, there's similarities. And I'm really excited about this book because it's progress from the idea I thought it was going to be. I was going to write a book saying, this is the tips I could give you in terms of doing slow traveling, which I've done. So slow traveling is where you spend a longer period in a time in a place, a destination. For example, it might be a month, or I usually just stay 3 months, minimum in places when I do travel, and it's nice to immerse yourself in local culture. So I didn't want to go have a book where I go into lots of detail about that because it can end up being a big book. And one of the things you will find, and I will create a post with a link, the page to my book, is that you will find that oh, excuse me, my throat just went a bit dry there because I had a bit sore throat today. But what I was going to say is with the book, you find that it encourages you to test different things out, to warm up. Because yes, you could go cold turkey like what I did years ago when I relocated, left my family, my friends, and partner behind. I'm not saying to do something like that, unless there's a really good reason. And my reason was I was relocating for work. But it's been such an interesting book to write. And as I mentioned, in my sales copy, for the official page for the book, is that these days we also have access to a lot of free information. You can use AI like ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, Gemini, to name a few. So it's easy to get access to information, do research. Yes, there is a section, I do make a note in terms of being safe whilst traveling. Yes, I know for women it could be a bit different in terms of safety. And so, for example, a tip I would give people, so I know we're all grown ups, is that when you're going out on dates, if you could do this when you're at home, for example, what I tend to do is I share the number with a person I know, like a friend, or a picture of the person I'm going out on a date. So those are sort of like extra bonus tips, but it's not in the book because I wanted the book to look more in terms of life being trial and error, how it's about testing things. If you don't like one thing, that's okay, especially if you give it a go for a period of time. And then you could like pivot and change and try different things. And you never know how things will work out or what discoveries you have. I also talk about this theme of being in travel mode. So, travel mode is a term I coined. So, it's a bit like a state of mind. So, when I go traveling, as soon as I'm on the way to the airport, I notice that there's a change in me. It's like, of course, I see it as an adventure. Yes, I know you might be a nervous traveler, but that's perfectly okay. Maybe you could take some tips from this. So, what I do is I go to the airport, take a really open minded approach because, yes, delays might happen. And then what I do is I will go through different lounges, go to Mac. You know, Mac is my favorite place. Like this lipstick you see here, it's one of my favorite makeups. So this is a Mac lipstick, and I can't remember what it's called, and I don't have it nearby because I pick it up if you're interested. Maybe you could comment and I'll reply back later in the post. So I look forward to doing things like that. I sometimes eat in the airport because we know how airplane food can be sometimes, or even better if you could take your food onto plane, but of course there's restrictions. And then I think that when I'm on a plane, it feels like you're in a liminal space and it feels really nice, just to be away and in between two worlds in a sense, in terms of your day to day life. But talking about travel and, taking time out. So this is me being the lifestyle and wellness person here, is you don't need to go abroad to take a time out or break. You could also um, include daily practices. So this, for example, could be like what I mentioned early on, going for walks, putting earbuds in, and either zoning out, or what I recommend is don't play any music or podcast, just listen to the sounds outside. Yes, I know that for your situation you might be in a busy city, so it might be hard to do that, but if you have like a park nearby, or even if you have a garden or a balcony with plants, you could do that. You could improvise. I say just, breathe, do like rituals. You could do affirmations. I like to touch the tree. I am the person who talks to the tree, and I do like breathing exercises. So the point I'm making is you can get away from things by putting your technology down, maybe going out without your phone, closing your laptop, because how many times do you hear people saying that I feel burnt out, I feel tired, etc.? And the key is to create like day to day practices which you can use, which can help you in terms of navigating this sort of like day to day sort of stress. So I would give you that experiment to do is try it for 5 minutes, without any music. If you're used to having the earphones in, then increase it to 10 minutes and then see how you feel, in terms of your whole body. Do you feel calmer? Do you feel less stressed? Do you feel like it's my me time? And even if you have to take your phone with you, you could put do not disturb mode, and at certain intervals you could check it, look down instead of looking up, as I was saying to begin with. And I love going for walks because I like bumping into dogs. I do love dogs. Sometimes I wonder if I prefer them to human beings. But you could like, make eye contact, with people as they're walking, smile, hello, because you never know who that next person you're going to meet. So yes, I did say it could be the love of your life. It could be a someone who could connect you to something else. So, say, for example, if you're looking for work or new opportunities. So that's why it's so important to have human connections. And just because you're starting off solo, you don't have a plus one, it does not mean by the end of evening necessarily that you're going to be in your own, because I can list many situations where I've met some interesting people, traveled solo to other countries, even been invited to sit with other people at the table. Maybe I have that sort of like puppy dog look, sometimes, who knows. But if you want to find out more about my book, I will post it in this post. So it will be posted to my feed. And for a limited time, you could get it for £10. So with this book, what's great about it is it's fillable. So once you buy it, download it, you could go through it, go through questions. And I've designed it in a way that you could go through it in a day or maybe a weekend, because at the time of recording this, it's a Friday. And the reason why I designed it that way is because often, and I do have an education background, by the way, is if you look at stats, you get people get really excited. So they say, "Oh, I want to go on my first solo adventure," and this is why I didn't do a really big book for it deliberately, because I want people to go through it and start thinking about what puts them off, in terms of trying new things. I want people to list things which they're going to which are going to attempt to do. Maybe if it's that art class, maybe it's the cooking class. And just another tip in terms of solo traveling. So I'm giving you more bonus. So you might say afterwards, Sophia, please do that more detailed traveling book afterwards. Is a tip I share is when you go to another country, say something if it's for a week, let's take Italy. I know it might sound very, very cliche. So you enjoy Italian cooking. So what you can do, you can look up and see if there's Italian cooking classes, and there you get to practice your Italiano. I'm really sorry, my accents are not good, everyone. You can learn something. And when you're learning, and this is one thing to remind you of, is when you join these events, be it salsa dancing, art class, cook, learning to cook, is you meet new people and you already have something in common, the class you're at. You both have that interest. So that's another way to meet people. So if you want to hear more and more tips about this, feel free to post or send me a message, and I will write and create more content. So here's to the launch of my new book. I'll go post a link, and as a reminder, for limited amount of time, you could get this for £10, and the code is simple. It is solo, so like going solo, number 10. So I hope you enjoy the start of your weekend, wherever you are in the world, or maybe the weekend's already gone and you're looking at this on a Monday thinking, oh, I would love to go on an adventure. So have a good event, have a good weekend, a good day ahead, and here's to trying and testing new things without the plus one. Thank you very much for listening and watching. Bye for now.